Taylor Swift built her empire on control of her image, her art, her story, but this time, the story slipped away from her. The life of a showgirl was supposed to be her victory lap, yet it spiraled into one of the most divided moments of her career. Fans are arguing, critics are ruthless, and even the algorithms seem to be turning against her. From TikTok backlash to political soundbites, from secret industry alliances to public silence, Taylor's grip on the narrative is fading fast. The question now isn't who's hating her, it's whether she still runs the show. For years, Taylor Swift was untouchable. Every release felt like a calculated victory. Every silence, a move in her game of control. But the life of a showgirl changed that. The moment it dropped, the balance shifted. TikTok flooded with mockery, memes outperformed her music, and critics sharpened their tone. What once felt like admiration turned into analysis. I see this as the first time Taylor's power over the narrative started slipping. One fan wrote, "The internet used to protect her, now it just feeds on her." And that line hit me. It wasn't hate, it was observation. The people who once defended her every lyric are now dissecting her in real time. Another user said, "She built an empire from control, but the algorithm doesn't play favorites." I think that comment says everything. Taylor's not battling her critics anymore. She's battling the system that made her famous. The same machine that amplified her voice has learned to echo it, twist it, and sell it back as noise. This isn't just backlash, it's digital betrayal, and for the first time, Taylor isn't the one writing the story. When the life of a showgirl dropped, the internet didn't just react, it split. Overnight, admiration turned into argument. For some, it was a nostalgic return to the Taylor they grew up with. For others, it felt like a step backward, stripped of the poetic weight they expected. The debate wasn't about melody or production, it was about identity. Who is Taylor Swift now? The songwriter, the celebrity, or the symbol? Across social media, one comment stood out. "It's not that the album is bad, it's just not hers anymore." I see that as more than criticism. It's disappointment from someone realizing their idea of Taylor no longer matches the real one. Another voice added, "She's done trying to please us." And that's what makes people uncomfortable. That line hit harder than any review. It exposed the quiet truth behind the noise. Taylor hasn't changed, her audience has. And that's what made this release different. It wasn't universally loved or hated. It was chaotic, unpredictable, and entirely out of her control. I think this album didn't just divide her audience, it forced them to confront which version of her they truly believed in. It didn't happen overnight, but somewhere along the way, Taylor Swift's microphone turned into a megaphone. The woman who once wrote about heartbreak and healing started speaking like someone carrying the weight of an entire generation. When she addressed the chaos after the Charlie Kirk assassination, the internet stopped listening to the music and started dissecting her every word. She said, "If you're mentioning my album or my name, you're helping." What might have sounded confident came across to many as dismissive, especially when she implied that people criticizing Hollywood's reaction were being toxic. I see that as the moment her control slipped into something heavier: moral authority. Online, one person said, "She's right. Artists should use their platforms to heal." Another fired back, "She's not healing anyone, she's preaching." Those two lines captured everything. Taylor wasn't just the soundtrack anymore, she was the conversation itself. And the more she spoke about unity, the more divided her audience became. Her attempt to guide the noise only amplified it. That's the irony. The woman who once mastered silence now can't escape the echo of her own voice. In Hollywood, silence isn't neutrality, it's rebellion. And when Taylor spoke, the industry listened. The moment she entered the political conversation, lines were drawn, alliances were tested, and suddenly, supporting or ignoring her became its own statement. I think that's when she stopped being just a singer and became a litmus test for loyalty. Every artist who stayed quiet looked suspicious. Every compliment sounded strategic, and in that climate, Taylor's circle started to shrink while her influence grew sharper, almost weaponized. Soon, another discussion took over, the creative overlap debate. Fans began pointing out how certain songs from the life of a showgirl sounded familiar, sparking conversations about influence versus imitation. Charlie Puth addressed it directly, not to accuse, but to explain. He said, There are only 12 notes in a scale. Similarities are inevitable. That one line reframed the entire conversation. But instead of calming things down, it reminded people of the Olivia Rodrigo situation, when Olivia had to credit Taylor for Deja Vu after referencing Cruel Summer. Now, the question was reversed. If Taylor once demanded recognition for influence, why couldn't others expect the same from her? It wasn't scandal, it was scrutiny. Every lyric, every chord, every creative choice became evidence in a debate that had nothing to do with music anymore. I see this as the moment Taylor stopped being treated like an artist and started being judged like an institution. And institutions don't get grace, they get audits. Hollywood wasn't just watching her, it was measuring her. Because here, loyalty isn't about honesty or art, it's about survival. Every Taylor Swift album comes with a hidden game, decoding the clues. But this time, the guessing felt heavier, more personal, like fans weren't trying to understand her, they were trying to expose her. The life of a showgirl turned into a lyrical investigation. Each track became a headline waiting to happen. Was Cancelled a message to Blake Lively or a quiet nod to Sophie Turner? Was Father Figure a metaphor for betrayal aimed at the man who sold her masters? I think that's what makes this era so explosive. Every song feels like a mirror held up to someone's scandal. The internet swarmed with theories. Some said Actually Romantic was a wink to Charlie XCX. Others claimed subtle jabs at Travis Kelce's ex were scattered throughout. But what stood out wasn't the accuracy, it was the obsession. People no longer listened to her lyrics for emotion, they listened for evidence. Every word was pulled apart, time-stamped, matched with paparazzi photos and red carpet dates. The woman who once told stories is now trapped inside them. I see this as a reflection of how fame devours authenticity. Taylor's words used to be art. Now they're data, dissected, monetized, weaponized. And the cruelest twist? The more she insists her songs are just art, the less anyone believes her. Fans call it transparency, but it's surveillance. Critics call it overexposure, but it's curiosity turned corrosive. This isn't the romantic mystery that once defined her. It's the price of being too honest for too long. Taylor's music used to give people connection. Now, it gives them content. And maybe that's the saddest lyric she's ever written, the one she never had to sing. By the time the chaos reached its peak, Taylor Swift wasn't defending herself, she was redefining herself. In her interview with Zane Lowe, she didn't sound shaken, she sounded calculated, calm. She said, "I welcome the chaos. Everyone's allowed to feel how they want. I know what I made, and I adore it." That wasn't surrender, it was strategy. I see that as her way of turning backlash into brand identity. If people were going to call her dramatic, she'd become the drama. If they said she was controlling, she'd control the narrative louder than anyone else. Hollywood applauded the confidence, but underneath the praise was exhaustion. Every award show, every magazine feature, every viral clip, Taylor became the conversation nobody could escape. She wasn't reacting anymore, she was performing endurance. And the brilliance of it all? It worked. The more people criticized her, the more relevant she became. The chaos she welcomed turned into currency. Still, something about it feels different this time. There's power in owning the noise, but there's also loneliness in it. I think she knows that too. You can't always be the mirror and the reflection at once. The woman who built her empire on control has learned to survive by surrendering, not to her critics, but to the chaos itself. Because in Hollywood, peace doesn't sell. Controversy does. And Taylor, whether by instinct or design, just turned hers into an art form. Taylor Swift didn't fall. She evolved. The backlash, the debates, the noise, all of it became part of her empire. Every headline that tried to hurt her ended up feeding the story she wanted told. I see this as her greatest illusion yet, convincing the world she's losing control while quietly proving she never did. The internet can mock her, critics can question her, but the numbers keep rising, the conversations never stop, and her name stays everywhere. That's not downfall, that's design. Taylor doesn't need to silence the chaos anymore. She just has to conduct it. Because in a world that feeds on outrage, she's learned to turn every strike into applause. Maybe she's not fighting the storm, maybe she is the storm. But what do you think? Has Taylor lost control of her story or mastered it completely? Drop your thoughts below.